All right, so this is Pillars of Fat Loss, Part 4, Stress. My name is Christine Giorgetti. I am the manager of the One Beacon Fitness Center in downtown Boston. I also have an online business, CMG Health and Fitness. I'm a certified exercise physiologist and certified nutrition coach. And you can find me on both Instagram and Facebook. So, Pillars of Fat Loss, Part 4, Stress. So again, here are the 5 pillars of fat loss that we've started with in every presentation. When it comes to fat loss success, you should be working on all 5 of these pillars: exercise, nutrition, sleep, stress, and lifestyle. When you are putting an equal amount of work into these pillars, you'll find that you are more successful. But if you focus on only 1 or 2 and disregard the others, you might be slower in reaching your goals. So today we're going to talk about pillar number 4, which is stress. So these are just kind of some of the things that we're going to talk about. How does it affect our fat loss? Good stress versus bad stress, allostatic loads, and then the effects of stress on exercise, nutrition, sleep, and overall health, and then how to improve your stress. So we might think of stress as outside things or things that happen to us, but in reality, stress is your response to challenges that you face in everyday life. And there is such thing as good stress, and there also is such thing as bad stress. So too much of the wrong kind of stress can be harmful to our health, but sometimes stress can be a positive force in our lives. So good stress, which is called eustress, this is the kind of stress that helps you grow, helps you learn, helps you get stronger, pushes you out of your comfort zone in a positive way. It can help you stay focused, energetic, alert. It can help you rise to meet challenges and helps to build you up and leaves you better than before. However, this type of stress is often short-lived or infrequent. And now the bad kind of stress, also known as distress, this is the type that causes you to feel weak or worried, doesn't challenge you at all, causes high anxiety, makes you feel scattered and distracted, and this type can be chronic. When you are in a state of distress, cortisol and adrenaline both rise. Cortisol is the stress hormone, which we'll talk about a little bit more later on. All your hormones are affected: blood sugar, immunity hormones, metabolic hormones, sleep hormones. All of those are affected by being in a state of chronic distress, and all of those things can lead to muscle loss and or fat gain. So at some point, stress stops helping your life, so it goes from being good stress and starts damaging your life and becomes bad stress. So one thing that distinguishes good stress from bad stress is your ability to recover from it and your reaction to it. So everyone reacts differently to various stressors, and therefore everyone has their own unique stress sweet spot where you have just enough good and bad stress to sort of balance it all out. There are many things that affect our tolerance to stress. So our attitude and our outlook, general outlook on life. If you tend to be a more positive person, you'll find that you can deal with stress a little bit better. Life experience, so something from your past might cause you more to have a different reaction to a stressor than someone else who doesn't have that past experience. You can react totally differently to the same stressor just based on, something that happened to you in your past. Genetics do play a role. Your perception of control, like how you think you have control over your life, over your stress. Your natural personality type, that sort of ties into attitude and outlook. Your support system, so the people that you surround yourself with, are they supportive, are they helpful, or are they sort of like dismissive and, don't really care about what you're stressing over? That can affect your tolerance to stress. Your ability to control your emotions. If you're a very emotional person, you might find that you react quicker to certain stressors. Your environment, so someone who works in a very high stress environment versus someone who doesn't work in a high stress environment, those environments can affect your tolerance to stress. And then your allostatic load. So what is allostatic load? That is the cumulative total of all the things in your life that cause physical, mental, and or emotional stress. So if you were to make a list of everything that you feel stressed about in this moment right now, that would be your allostatic load. So if you think of the saying, the straw that broke the camel's back, the pile of straw on that camel is that camel's allostatic load. So the more straw that the camel has on its back, the more that's signifies more stress that they're carrying. And then the more likely you are to crack over like something very small. So the more that you are personally carrying, the more stress that you're holding on to, the more likely you are to crack under pressure. So we can also think of stress as sort of like a curve where if there's some sort of stressor that's too low and it's not really enough to cause a reaction, then nothing will change. You won't feel motivated, but you also won't feel like anxious or uncomfortable by it. If the stress is too high or it goes on for too long or it's too strong, if that outpaces your ability to recover from the stress, and that's where the breakdown happens. If that stressor is within your recovery zone, so it's not too high, but it's also not too low, then you'll be able to deal with it and recover from it. We've all heard the phrase, what doesn't kill us makes us stronger. So this is what we mean by like the sweet spot. You never want the stress to be so strong that you can't deal with it. That's where you have to find your own personal sweet spot. So you don't want to have no stress at all, because then, your life would be totally boring, but you also don't want your stress to be so high that it could potentially kill you. So how does stress affect our workouts? Eustress can be good for workouts, and remember, eustress is the good kind of stress. That can be good for workouts, so giving you an extra push and helping you to feel motivated. So an example of good stress would be if you're taking a group exercise class or doing a group workout, you kind of feel motivated by the people around you. You want to keep up, you want to have a great workout with the people that you're doing it with. That is good stress. However, staying in a state of chronic distress, so the bad type of stress, this can negatively impact your workout. So like we already talked about, being in a state of distress increases the levels of cortisol and adrenaline. This is bad because eventually your adrenal glands will get tired of just continuously pumping out cortisol and adrenaline, and they'll just stop. That results in sort of that crash and burn. So you'll have chronic fatigue, no motivation to work out, and you'll just feel like completely burnt out. Distress can also lead to amino acid loss in skeletal muscles, which can lead to muscle mass, a loss of muscle mass. So if you think about a state of distress in relation to workouts, that could be someone who works out for like 2 hours every day of the week, 7 days a week, never misses a day. Eventually, you're going to burn out. That's too much stress, not only on the body, but it's too much mental stress. And that's where the stress of eustress, going to workouts every single day, going to classes, it eventually stops helping and starts damaging your life. So nutrition. We talked about this in previous webinars, which you can listen to there if you missed them. But basically, we've all heard of stress eating, and it's a real thing. So if you are chronically fatigued from being in a prolonged state of distress, like we just talked about, your cortisol and adrenaline, they rise and then you crash, your hunger hormones get thrown completely out of whack when that happens. So these 3 hormones that we talked about in the nutrition talk 2 weeks ago, ghrelin, leptin, and the endocannabinoids, those go completely out of whack. And as we know from the previous talk, that leads to increased cravings for carbohydrates and sugary foods, poor blood sugar management, and potentially even insulin resistance, decreased thyroid activity, and slower metabolism. So all of those things can lead to weight gain and can hinder your fat loss success. And we talked about sleep a lot last week. So staying in a state of chronic distress, as we already talked about, leads to chronic fatigue, but can also cause disruptions in your sleep. This state of chronic distress wreaks havoc on your hormones, especially cortisol, like I've said before. And if you remember from last week's talk, cortisol is an antagonist to melatonin, which is the hormone that's responsible for inducing sleep. So if you have elevated cortisol, it's going to act as a block to the melatonin, which will cause insomnia, sleep deprivation, and as you already know, sleep is super, super important for that muscle repair after workouts, so that can lead to muscle loss. And sleep is also important for fat loss, so that can lead to fat gain if you're not getting enough sleep. If you missed last week's talk on sleep, definitely give that a listen. Sleep is one of the most important things that we need to be healthy. So I get into much more detail on all of these things during that talk, so you can listen to that either on my Facebook page or on YouTube as well. So stress is not really something that we just feel. It can actually be harmful to your physical, mental, and emotional health in many different ways. Stress can trigger and intensify headaches like migraines and tension headaches. It can wear down on your emotional health, which puts you at an increased risk of depression and anxiety. Stress increases the production of stomach acid, which can lead to heartburn and other stomach issues. Stress increases the release of glucose from the liver into the bloodstream, which puts you at an increased risk of diabetes. And then if you're also eating a poor diet because of your stress, that will also increase your risk of diabetes. Stress makes your heart pump faster, which can elevate blood pressure and eventually lead to damaging your arteries, which puts you at an increased risk of heart attack, heart disease, and or hypertension. It also causes shortness of breath when you feel like you can't really breathe from being so stressed. Those are your muscles that help you breathe. Those are your muscles tensing up from the stress, and that causes you to kind of feel like you're short of breath. Stomach issues, which we already talked about a little bit. It also affects the digestive system. Stress interferes with the reproductive systems of both males and females. So that can make it harder to conceive, which again, that's a totally different topic, and that can lead to even more stress and more mental and emotional issues. Chronic stress causes you to kind of tense up your muscles, which can lead to joint pain, back pain, and then, like I mentioned already, tension headaches can come from those tight, tense muscles. And then stress also weakens the immune system, which leaves you vulnerable to viruses and infections. So the stress is not only something that affects our weight gain and our fat loss, it also affects our overall health, physical, mental, emotional health. And you know, it's true when people say, oh, this person died of stress, like that can happen. So how do we control our stress? Well, you want to be purposefully chasing relaxation every single day. So by spending time in a parasympathetic state, which means rest and relaxation, we can have a little bit more control over our stress. And these are just some things that you can do. There's hundreds of things that you can do to kind of put yourself in a relaxed state. And you always want to do something that you want to do. So yoga, meditation, deep breathing, being in nature, laughing, relaxing in a sauna or a spa, reading, taking a walk or a casual hike, listening to music, taking a warm bath, snuggling with a loved one or a pet, journaling, gardening, knitting, all of those things, anything that will help you relax, that's something that you would want to do every single day. Now, notice that watching TV or playing video games or watching movies, that's not on this list. That's something that you want to avoid because screen time gives you too much stimulation and you may feel like you're relaxed, but you're really not. You really need to do something that's away from a screen that you can really just get into and focus on. So the recommendation is at least 30 minutes of a relaxing activity every day. So that could be 30 minutes of reading, 30 minutes of gardening, a 30-minute walk, anything that you personally like to do to relax yourself, try to do that for 30 minutes every single day. So I have some activities and questions for you. You don't have to do this right now, but just something to think about. Number one, make a list of all the stressors in your daily life. This is your allostatic load. So just like we talked about in the beginning, writing down the things that you stress about can be really helpful. For question number two, is there anything that you shouldn't be stressing about? So, for example, you always hear that brides are stressed about the weather on their wedding day. That is something that you have absolutely no control over, so it's not worth stressing about. So take a look at your list of stressors and go down it and say, is there anything on this list that I have zero control over? And if there is, then take it off. It's not worth stressing over because no matter what you do, you can't change it. You can't change the weather. You can't change the menu at your favorite restaurant. Those are things that are not worth stressing about. Now we're going to think to that stress chart with the curve. Do you tend to stay in more of a good stress state or a bad stress state? And how can you find your sweet spot? So this also kind of relates to that list of daily stressors. If you kind of take some things out that you shouldn't be stressing about, maybe that puts you more into the good stress state or takes you a little bit out of the bad stress state. So working on finding your sweet spot can be super, super helpful, especially when you're kind of like trying to figure out, okay, why am I having this reaction to something? Am I in a bad stress state? Number four, make a commitment to practicing relaxation techniques for 30 minutes every single day. So for this one, schedule it just like you would schedule a work meeting or a workout. Schedule your relaxation time. If that means at the beginning of every week, you look at your schedule and try to find places to fit it in, that's great. If you just do it day by day, in the morning, you see where you can fit it in, that's also good. But definitely put it in your schedule to make sure that you actually do it. Last one, number five, notice any physical changes during times of high stress, like a headache, a heartburn, a stomach ache, etc. And make note of that in a journal. So I'll use myself as an example. I have stomach issues, like underlying stomach issues. So when I am in a high stress state, my stomach issues just get 10 times worse. And I always know if I'm starting to feel sick that, okay, I'm getting too stressed out here. I need to calm down, take it down a notch, and just try to relax. Maybe you get headaches, or maybe you start having heartburn, or maybe you kind of know that symptoms of anxiety pop up when you're too stressed. So being aware of any physical changes that happen is extremely helpful, so that you kind of know, okay, this is coming on, I'm getting too stressed, it's time to take it down a notch. So definitely keep a journal of symptoms of stress. I mean, daily journaling is a great way to relax. So if you just kind of journal for even 10 minutes a day, just write down, how your day was, your stress level, any symptoms you had that maybe were caused by the stress. That's a great way to fit in some relaxation into your day. Are there any questions at the moment? Okay. So next week will be the last installment of this series, Pillars of Fat Loss. Next week we'll be talking about lifestyle. Same time, same place, 5 o'clock next Wednesday. If you do have any questions that you think of in the meantime, feel free to shoot me an email or send me a DM on Instagram. Thank you so much.